the Rwandan Genocide because
Now, when I read this, all right, now I'm familiar with this when it first happened, but I didn't keep up with it. I was absolutely shocked at how fast it played out. Like we're talking within 2 weeks, millions of people hacked to death with machetes.
when we were gearing up to go to Algeria, we were at where's 173rd at? Is that Sigonella?
173rd Airborne?
Yeah, in
They're
Italy. They're in
they're,
Italy.
they're in Italy. I don't know what city they're in though.
I can't remember if it's Sigonella or anyway, we were gearing up to go to Algeria. We were just going there for a few weeks to do some stuff. And we ran into some group guys who were just coming back from Africa, and they're like, dude, they told us one horror story after another about this stuff here, what these people will do to each other. The Rwandan genocide. Don't think that'll come here. It's already here. Africans from Senegal, Congo,
all over Africa are here.
Rwanda, and and these people they do not have a concept of our moral code or our moral structure. It's not that they don't have morals. It's not that they like don't have any kind of a conscience. They don't even have a concept of these things. It doesn't occur to them. They just do whatever they want.
Or whatever they need to do.
Or whatever they need to do, yeah. During the 94 Rwandan genocide, also known as the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, members of the Hutu ethnic majority in the East Central African nation of Rwanda murdered as many as 800,000 people. They didn't starve them to death. They didn't shoot them. They didn't herd them somewhere and put them in camps to do this. They went village to village and hacked these people to death.
Yeah.
800,000 people. Mostly of the Tutsi minority, started by Hutu nationalists in the capital of Kigali. The genocide spread throughout the country with shocking speed and brutality as ordinary citizens were incited by local officials in the Hutu power government to take up arms against their neighbors. By the time the Tutsi-led Rwandese Patriotic Front gained control of the country through a military offensive in early July, hundreds of thousands of Rwandans were dead and 2 million refugees, mainly Hutus, fled Rwanda, exacerbating what had already become a full-blown humanitarian crisis. Now, I know for a fact that some of these were brought here.
Yes. Well, and in New York State, there's all kinds.
No, I mean like 20 years ago.
No, same thing.
Oh, okay.
The Somalis, there's whole neighborhoods in New York State that are
Maine
Somali.
and Minneapolis as well.
Yes.
Minneapolis is basically Mogadishu now. I wasn't kidding when I said that.
Yeah.
Minneapolis is basically a Somali state. By the early 1990s, Rwanda, a small country with an overwhelmingly agricultural economy like most of the continent, had one of the highest population densities in Africa. About 85% of its population was Hutu, the rest were Tutsi, along with a small number of Tiwa, a pygmy group, who were the original inhabitants of Rwanda. Now, the Hutu and the Tutsi are part of what's called Bantu, which is the major indigenous
tribe
group. It's like a haplogroup.
Yeah.
Rather than just a tribe. The Hutu and the Tutsi are the tribes.
Okay.
And Bantu is the...
Yeah, but my thing is this happened in less than a month.
Yes.
All right. Less than 30 days, almost a million. I would say that this number is wrong with the 800,000. It's probably over a million, maybe double that number. They're probably dumbing it down to save people's feelings and shit.
They like to use nice round numbers.
Yeah.
For one. And for another, yeah, a lot of it goes unreported. They'll go in and clear a village, and then that village is just gone. Nobody goes in there and counts them.
Yeah.
You don't have the Tutsi guy in there with his little clipboard. Okay, 432.
But
432. That's not a thing.
But this is what I'm talking about here. We have the media, we have the Democrats drawing lines through our population, and they want people to tribal up, pack up and stack up, and then go at it. That's what they want. They want a civil war to take place so they could usher in the global world order.
They think that's what they're doing.
Yes.
They think that's what they're doing. I don't think that's how this is going to play out. First of all...
No, you cannot predict how human beings are going to react in situations. Like I said, we're evil hairless monkeys. We thrive on chaos. A lot of times we don't know even what the fuck we're doing until we're doing it.
Yes. Yeah. I believe I said this last week. America is the only population on Earth that was cobbled together from spare parts, but mostly alpha personality types.
Mhm.
We will only push so far. Now, the millions of illegal invaders that are being flooded in here are all people like these Hutus and Tutsis. They have the same mentality. They're going to become violent. It's already happened. I told you on the way
Yeah.
back when we were grabbing food. There was a car crash in Kern County, California, by Bakersfield, or not a car crash, a train
Train hit a car.
Train hit a car,
Uh-huh.
and there was a body out there, and one of these African migrants, one of these African illegal invaders, found a leg and was walking around chewing on the leg like it was nothing.
Yep.
No American has ever seen anything like that before in the United States.
Well,
A guy walking down the street chewing on a leg.
during the Indian Wars, it probably happened.
No American alive today.
That's right. Okay, now you're correct.
Yep. Yeah, I remember watching that video on Twitter. Yeah, he was chewing on it like it was a fucking turkey leg.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
was
No.
quite disturbing.
Yeah, exactly. Ethnically motivated violence continued in the years following independence. In 73, a military group installed Major General Juvenal Habyarimana. This is a lot of the history of Rwanda here. Let's get down to the juicy part.
Yeah.
In August 1993, Habyarimana signed an agreement at Arusha, Tanzania, calling for the creation of a transition government that would include the Rwandan forces. This power-sharing agreement angered Hutu extremists who would take swift and horrible action to prevent it. So, on April 6th, a plane carrying Habyarimana. Wow, I'm having difficulty pronouncing a name. And Burundi's President Cyprien Ntaryamira.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
just
Apparently I need to.
don't pronounce.
That's fine.
it.
Was shot down over the capital of Kigali, leaving no survivors. It has never been conclusively determined who the culprits were, but some have blamed the Hutu extremists. Within an hour of the plane crash, the Presidential Guard, with other members of the Rwandan armed forces and Hutu militia groups known as the Interahamwe, those who attack together, and those who have the same goal. What creative names. Set up roadblocks and barricades and began slaughtering Tutsis and moderate Hutus with impunity. So within 1 hour, within 1 hour, the violence began for real. And again, for those of you who don't know, who haven't heard anything about Africa and how this stuff operates, guys, they go in there with machetes. They're not doing this in a clinical manner with truck-mounted machine guns even, or bombs or airplane raids or anything like this. This is face-to-face, hacking people to death, one after another, all day long for days. And they'll clear whole villages this way.
Yep.
The mass killings in Kigali quickly spread from that city to the rest of Rwanda. In the first 2 weeks, local government administrators in central and southern Rwanda, where most Tutsi lived, resisted the genocide. After April 18th, national officials removed the resistors and killed several of them. Other opponents then fell silent or actively led the killing. Officials rewarded killers with food, drinks, drugs, and money. Most people in sub-Saharan Africa, if they're of like war age, between 14 and 40, they're hopped up on something.
Yeah, and cot.
Speed. And I think cot is just East Africa for the most part. I don't know. Might be, probably. Anyway, they're hopped up on speed and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Government-sponsored radio stations started calling on ordinary Rwandan civilians to murder their neighbors. Within 3 months, some 800,000 people had been slaughtered. Within
90 days. And I'm listen, that 800,000 I think is light. I think it's more. Because how are you going to count all the people in the countryside when whole villages, like you said, were wiped out? Who's left behind to give accurate numbers?
Yeah.
And I believe NATO tried to get involved and stop this, but NATO is a bureaucratic nightmare. All right, so they're very slow to react. There's always infighting between all of the commanders. It's a shit show. In my opinion, the UN and NATO, whatever, fuck those guys. They have served their purpose. And as far as I'm concerned, they are obsolete. That's my opinion, though.
Absolutely. So, guys, I understand that this is tribes that have common goals and everything, but you're not talking about a lot of people doing the killing here,
Mm-hmm.
relatively speaking. And 800,000 people in 3 months were slaughtered in one place. That kind of thing, if the Somalis in Maine
Let me do the math on that.
were to go off, or in Minneapolis were to suddenly decide that they're going to kill every non-Somali they can get their hands on, they would tear through that city in probably 2 weeks flat and kill anything that wasn't a Somali.
So basically, 9,000 people a day were put to the sword over a 90-day period.
Yeah, 9,000 a day.
9,000 a day.
And there are people out there in the "that can never happen here" camp. Well, it can never happen here until it does.
Well, let's just be honest here, okay? You have the people in the inner city who are angry, disaffected, and bitter because we've been piping in the elevator music to piss them off and basically give them the victim mentality, and they're being oppressed and we're holding them down.
Yeah.
So the minute the government falls, you're going to have a bunch of people who are turbo pissed, and we're going to see something similar happen in the very beginning. Because let's face it, in the beginning of every civil war, the first 1 to 3 months is usually, maybe up to 6 months, a bunch of personal grudges that are being settled. And then people pack up, and then it gets uber bad from there.
Yeah, that's true. Soga68 mentioned in the chat that during a lot of this, where you said NATO was in there trying to help and stuff, the UN troops, the UN, he's right, were in there raping and killing themselves. We had a ton of problems with the UN raping all over the place. Afghanistan, Somalia, Rwanda, Tanzania, a bunch of places like that. They're known for it.
Yep.
It's really, really, really bad. The UN is not some world peacekeeping force.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of cobbled together third world countries that they give blue helmets and say, "You're the police here now." Well, they're the police from a country that they don't care about this country. They don't care about your people.
Yep.
They don't care about your culture. They don't care about your city. They're just going to do whatever the heck they want. That's why it's important to have police and forces that are from your culture, your country, and your people. That's
Yeah.
why it's important, because
shit goes off the rails that way because they have no emotional investment. They don't give a shit, damn, or a fuck, and they do whatever the fuck they want.
One of the biggest concerns that I have with our current medical community is that now all of the doctors are either Indian or Black or Arabic. They're not going to be nice to the indigenous population.
Probably not.
And it's already happening in the nursing homes. You see videos of this stuff all of the time. So when an urban center falls, what do you think is going to happen? You're not going to be able to get any medical attention after you get Hutu'd or Tutsi'd.
Yep.
In response, more than 2 million people, nearly all Hutus, fled Rwanda, crowding into refugee camps in Congo, which is not better at all.
It's called Zaire back then.
Yeah, that's fine, but it was still not better at all. Congo is just as bad. What's that? I don't want that. As in the case of atrocities committed in the former Yugoslavia around the same time, the international community largely remained on the sidelines during the Rwandan Genocide. A United Nations Security Council vote in 1994 led to the withdrawal of most of a UN peacekeeping force, created the previous fall to aid with governmental transition under the Arusha Accords.
Yeah. Now the whole Yugoslavia thing, I know guys, long tabbers, who were there trying to keep the peace.
Yeah.
And again, it was largely a NATO mission, and it was very hard to get anything done because of the unbelievable web of bureaucracy you have to go through.
It's also an entrenched culture. There's a lot of corruption and a lot of nepotism and a lot of cultural things that you have to navigate there as well.
No, some of my green beanie buddies were there, and they got in trouble because they did not ask for permission. They operated on forgiveness. So some shit would be developing, like, all right, what do we got? All right, let's get these trucks, let's do this, get the helicopter spun up. All right, get the artillery, get that. And they just took care of business. And then afterwards, like, who authorized this? Well, that lieutenant colonel over there with a green hat on did. And then they yelled at him.
Nice. Good way to.
My guys are just like,
These outbursts of violence, Yugoslavia, Zimbabwe, Rwanda, all of these other places, they're going to find their way here. They're already starting to find their way here. We're seeing incidents of tribal violence in some of the cities already during, like right after the pandemic, after everything started to open up a little bit. There were mobs of young black teenagers that were attacking people in the streets in places like Boston.
yes.
And
Or what
a
about
few
the
others.
smash and grabs?
The countless smash and grabs. Yeah.
Like 200 teenagers. They put out on the signal, meet here. They
Yep.
show up, and then they just mob a place and
Yeah.
steal everything.
Yep. Go in and just loot basically whole malls and stuff. That comes after the first 72 hours. That will persist, though. And then the strongest will rise to the top, and it will start to organize, and you will have de facto sort of pseudo
Warlords.
governments and warlords in those areas. Then if you're still alive and you're still in that urban area, then your real problems begin, because now you have to suffer through all of this.
Or leave, which would be very difficult.
Yeah. You want to get out in that first 72 hours.
Yes.
You want to be as far away from a collapse like that as you can in those first 72 hours. Haiti is probably one of the best examples of. Haiti was a French colony.
And then
In 1789, the Africans that they had brought over there to work the sugarcane fields, and granted they were slaves, I get it, okay, right? But they killed everybody who was not specifically black. They killed all of the whites first, and when people fled, and after they'd done the killing, the newly established black government said, "Oh, you can come back. We're sorry. We'll sort things out." They came back and they killed them.
Yep.
And they killed all.
Never recovered.
Yeah, it has never recovered.
Never recovered.
They killed all of the mulattoes as well. Any half black, half white children were killed.
Mm-hmm.
But it is the strangest existing ruined state that I've ever heard of. I've never actually been there, but I've talked to tabbers that have been there.
Well, I have a couple of friends that were in the Dominican Republic and Haiti doing stuff.
Right up against the border.
Yeah. And in my opinion, from what I've seen of Haiti, like it should be carpet bombed.
Bulldozed into the sea?
Yes. Just carpet bomb it
Yeah.
and bulldoze it into the sea. It should not exist. It is hell on earth.
Yeah.
It's the same with Somalia.
Yeah.
Somalia is a fucktard, insane asylum as well.
Somalia, interestingly, here I go with the history thing again. There are records of Greek traders from 2500 BC talking about that area of the African coast, and it wasn't called Somalia at the time.
No.
But the traders specifically described those people as stay the hell away because they will steal all of your shit, kill you, take your boats, and then eat you too.
And then do piracy.
And they were they're coastal pirates, and they have been coastal pirates for 2,500 years.
And where do you think the Marine Corps theme song came from? We actually sent people to Tripoli to kick ass because we were getting sick and tired of the Barbary Coast pirates.
That's Libya, though. That's inland.
Yeah, I know.
Somalia's on the far
coast.
I know.
I'm just saying.
That's fair. I get you. It's the same basic
concept.
Same concept. You're geographically challenged. I understand.
Watch Grunt Speak live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join Pop for Supporter Sundays, go to redonkulous.com/donate and make a monthly pledge. A link is in the Meat Caser box.